Heat clung to the plateau like a second layer of skin. It pressed down on everything: air, earth, life, until even sound struggled to move. The tortoise emerged from the shadow of a sun-bleached boulder, her shell blending almost perfectly with the cracked terrain beneath her feet. She paused first, not from hesitation, but necessity. Breathing in this place required patience. Her head lifted slowly. The horizon was a long, merciless line. No grass, no shade ahead, only a broken world of stone plates, jutting upward and downward, like the scales of a dying beast. But she had to cross it. Very carefully, she placed one foot forward. Claws scraped the dry crust of earth, finding grip, rejecting the soft hiss of sand that tried to swallow her step. Another step followed, small, deliberate, the kind of motion desert life made to avoid wasting what little water remained inside bones. Her shell glimmered faintly, heated by the sun. Not shining, simmering. The tortoise stretched her neck farther to test the air. The wind did not come. Even the slightest breeze had abandoned the plateau, leaving the atmosphere thick and heavy, like warm glass pressing against her scales. The ground beneath her told a story. Every crack was an old riverbed. Every split, a memory of water. Drought had carved this skeleton land. The tortoise trudged onward, her shell rocking like a slow pendulum. With each shift of weight, gravel rolled into crevices. The sound was tiny but significant, in a place where nothing else dared to move. A vulture circled high above, silent wings carving slow arcs around the sun. It watched not with hope, but with confidence. It had seen travelers like her before. Most did not reach the other side. The tortoise didn't look up. She didn't need to. Her focus was on each step, each fragile moment in motion, each victory over the plateau's attempt to remain unbroken and empty. The path was long, the day was longer, but the tortoise had survived days like this, and nights worse than them. One more step, then another. If stones could crawl, if patience could wear a shell, it would look just like this: a tiny creature refusing to let the sun choose when her journey ends. The tortoise pushed forward into air so still it felt sealed. The heat did not shimmer. It hovered, heavy and unmoving, refusing to rise or drift away. The desert had forgotten the meaning of wind. Not a grain of dust stirred. Not a strand of her neck scales received even the slightest relief of movement. The sun pinned everything in place. Her breaths grew slower, not out of fatigue, but wisdom. Every exhale needed to stay inside her as long as possible. Moisture lost was life lost. The ground beneath her paws radiated heat upward, waves invisible but tangible, swelling around her like the invisible body of a predator. Even the cracks in the plateau pulsed with warmth, as though the earth beneath was still burning from a time when water dared to flow here. She blinked sand from her eyes. Her shell creaked softly as she lifted her back leg for another step, joints protesting but obedient. Above, the sun remained a merciless judge, looking straight down as if it had nowhere better to shine. Its light had weight, pressing her shadow flat beneath her. In this dead stillness, sound died before leaving the ground. No bird song, no rustle of life, no hum of distant insects. Silence was not peace here. Silence was pressure. The tortoise paused, not stopping, simply measuring time. Her throat flexed dryly. She swallowed what little moisture clung to her tongue. Somewhere far behind her, those boulders she left behind continued to hold pockets of shade, cool enough for a resting place. She could go back, but survival did not live in the past. The plateau ahead was harsh, yes. Empty, yes. A trial, yes. But it was also the only direction where possibility existed. She lowered her head again, eyes fixed on a distant fracture in the earth, where the stone dipped slightly. Perhaps the beginning of a path downward, perhaps a lie. She wouldn't know unless she reached it. Her shell burned, her bones ached, her breath thickened. Still, she advanced. Because breeze or no breeze, movement was her only way through a land that hoped she would stop. The tortoise's shadow clung tight to her shell, a small, warped shape pinned beneath the full weight of the sun. It stretched only inches long, refusing to fall behind her like a companion should. Shadows did not lead here. Shadows hid. Every step she took bent her shadow into new angles, trying to slip beneath her, trying to disappear into the cracks of the plateau to escape the light. The sun was directly above, impatient, unblinking. It burned hot enough to bleach thought, hot enough to convince a creature to stop moving, to let the ground take them. But the tortoise was stubborn. She paused for a heartbeat and tilted her shell sideways, just slightly, to test if her shadow would lengthen. A game of inches in a world built to stretch miles. No luck. The sun pressed harder, flattening time and shape alike. Her claws scraped against a ridge in the rock, a harsh sound that startled even her. The noise should have traveled, but it landed only a few feet away, swallowed by the shimmering heat. Silence returned. She lifted her head just enough to scan the horizon again. No clouds, only the vulture that's still circling, its shadow a thin blade slicing the air far above. That was the only shadow allowed freedom here. She blinked slowly. Movement. Not ahead, beside her. A thin line of darkness slipped inside a crack. Not her own, something quick. She turned her eyes, but not her head. A predator's economy of motion. A small lizard, shell-colored, heat-hardened. It scurried a few inches, then froze, as if afraid the sun might strike it dead for daring to move. The tortoise watched as the lizard melted back into the stone, its faint, dry heartbeat too brave for this exposed place. Even the smallest life tried to keep its shadow hidden. Her gaze drifted back to her destination, whatever waited at the dip in the plateau. The distance looked unchanged. The progress felt invisible. Time stretched like the heat, heavy, suffocating. Another step. Another stretch of her shell's weight against the sun's intention. Her shadow fought to stay tucked beneath her, a last defense against the day. But she did not need a shadow to walk. She only needed a reason. And survival, the simple, unassuming desire to reach tomorrow, was reason enough. The sun hovered above her, like a challenge held in the sky. No clouds dared interrupt its glare. No bird dared cross its gaze. It watched, and it expected the tortoise to give up. Each rock on the plateau radiated heat, glowing without light, so hot that the air just above them shimmered like a mirage, trying to break loose from the earth. The tortoise lifted her foot and hesitated before placing it down. Even her hardened scales could feel the blister beneath her step. The sun pressed harder. Minutes stretched into an hour stretched into the shape of forever. Sweat meant death here. Her body saved every drop of moisture like treasure. Even breathing was a negotiation. She opened her mouth slightly, tongue dry, throat thick, and drew a thin breath, conserving what she could. No breeze arrived to help. The plateau gave her nothing. She blinked slowly, eyes gritty with dust. A small crust of dry earth cracked across the corner of her eyelid. She didn't stop to clear it. Every movement needed to serve the journey, not comfort. The vulture above let out a single croak, a lazy sound, confident. It spiraled lower, wings barely moving. The tortoise did not look up. She had no energy to waste on threats that fed only on weakness. The sun glinted off her shell, transforming it into a metal plate refusing to melt. For a moment, a brief miracle, the sun dipped lower, and her shadow stretched half a foot longer. She took another step, another victory. But the sun, stubborn as stone, halted mid-drop, paused, and climbed again, a cruel reminder that daylight was far from finished. The tortoise did not curse the sun. She simply accepted the truth. If the sky refused to blink, then she would refuse to close her eyes. Persistence was her only advantage over an enemy so bright, so vast, so convinced of its own power. She lowered her head once more, and under the full judgment of the sun, she kept moving. The plateau beneath the tortoise fractured into a maze of ancient scars. Long fissures zigzagged in every direction, paths carved by heat, time, and abandonment. From above, these lines might look like roads, but down here, they promised nothing. She paused at a fork in the stone. Not a path to choose, but a pattern to survive. Each crack was wide enough to trap a foot, deep enough to swallow a limb, and endless enough to mock the idea of progress. Step wrong, and the plateau would claim her. The sun flared again, forcing her to squint. Her eyes watered, not with tears, but with the body's last refusal to surrender moisture. She lowered her head to the ground, studying the surface. A dark groove ahead caught her attention. Deeper, younger, as if something recently dragged itself across the plateau. Not predator, not prey, something desperate. She followed its curve toward the distant dip in the horizon. Hope wasn't a luxury. It was a compass. Her claws gripped the brittle rock carefully. Each shift of weight had to be measured, calculated. There was no room for missteps when the earth itself tried to pull you down. The cracks widened. Heat warped the air. The horizon flickered uncertainly. What looked like an opening one moment seemed to vanish the next. The tortoise kept her gaze forward. Behind her, the vulture descended lower, a slow spiral, feathers barely rustling. It expected a fall. The tortoise resisted a glance upward. She didn't need to watch patience waiting for her to fail. A sharp, crystalline sound echoed, a sliver of rock snapping under pressure. The tortoise froze instantly. Her foot hovered over a thin sheet of stone, suspended over darkness. One more ounce of weight, and she would vanish into the crack's hunger. She reversed her step, slow, steady, and found new ground. The earth held reluctantly. The plateau tested her. The cracks taunted her. But she refused to let the land decide where she should stop. She moved again, one slow, stubborn step at a time, following a path that led nowhere, because nowhere was still better than giving up where she stood. The tortoise's movements grew smaller, sharper, more survival than journey. Her body was designed for endurance, but this land tested even endurance's patience. The sun hammered down like a god determined to shape the world through heat alone. Her shell, once her protection, now felt like a furnace strapped to her back. Each breath tasted of rock dust and old sunlight. The air no longer smelled like anything, just heat pretending to have substance. But the tortoise did not stop. Her heartbeat drummed a steady, stubborn rhythm. Step. Survive. Step. Survive. Even the earth seemed to respect that rhythm. Small tremors beneath her paws indicated life below. Deep roots, buried insects, hidden seeds waiting for a rain none remembered. They hummed beneath her, faint vibrations of survival buried within stone. She was not alone in defying the plateau. She was simply the only one brave enough to do so above ground. The dip in the distance, once a possibility, now looked like a promise. Maybe shade, maybe water, maybe rest. Her eyes narrowed, not with fear, but resolve. She had crossed harsher places than this. She would cross this one too. Her legs shook beneath her weight. Her breathing slowed even more, each inhale a long negotiation, each exhale a sacrifice. The vulture above made a low croak, an impatient one. It circled closer, its wings casting a narrow strip of shade that moved too fast to help. Its hunger was loud, but the tortoise's determination was louder. She took another step. The sun responded, sliding downward a fraction. Even the sky understood. She was not offering defeat. She was not crawling to die. She was walking to prove that life persists, even when time tries to slow it to a halt. Her heart, older than most creatures around her, kept beating, kept pushing, kept moving. Because as slow as she always moved faster than death. The sun dipped lower, turning from white to molten gold, but it didn't drop beneath the horizon. Not yet. It watched. The tortoise pushed forward, legs trembling and dry from the miles of heat behind her. Each step felt like dragging a mountain, her mountain. The dip in the plateau was close now, a shallow decline where cracks softened into sandy ridges, a place where shadows dared to exist again. Her shell burned, her breaths rasped, but her eyes stayed fixed ahead. She reached the first hint of slope. One more step, and her weight finally leaned downward instead of up. Her claws dug into cooler soil. Cooler. Not cold, not wet, but different. A beginning. The plateau behind her still radiated day. The plateau ahead began to promise night. The sun hovered, as if reconsidering its own descent. The vulture let out a frustrated croak overhead, annoyed that determination had stolen its meal. The tortoise didn't look up. She didn't need to celebrate survival. Survival is the celebration. Her shadow stretched long, finally allowed to lead instead of hide. It reached forward like a companion eager to guide her into evening. She took another step. A patch of grass, thin and brittle, brushed her foot. Then another, and another. Life. Tiny. Waiting for rain. The sun, now a huge, amber disk, hesitated one last moment, as if deciding whether to rise again and challenge her once more. But she had already won. It sank beneath the edge of the world with a reluctant sigh of light, and the first breath of night washed over the plateau. A cool wind, the first in days, rolled across her shell, soothing the heat trapped in every seam. The vulture turned away, its opportunity gone with the daylight. The tortoise continued down the slope, each step easier than the last, each breath freer, each heartbeat stronger than time. When darkness finally claimed the plateau, she disappeared into it, a small, stubborn survivor who made the sun wait.